So Drova Forsaken Kin is this pixel art action RPG that came out in October 2024, and I'm going to break down everything you need to know about the game's current state, and literally everything that changed since release, because the developers put out 3 massive content patches before moving on to the next project. Very quickly, the basic setup is you get transported to this world called Drova after a ritual goes wrong, and you are stuck there because deadly fog surrounds everything. The game is inspired by Gothic, with Celtic mythology mixed in, and what makes it different from modern RPGs is there is zero hand-holding, meaning no quest markers, no minimap, no glowing trails. That means when someone tells you to meet them somewhere, then you should remember what they said. Now the game world here isn't massive, but it is carefully designed, so each area has actual stuff worth finding. Combat has depth with different weapon types, dodge rolling, stamina management, and a combo system. The early enemies can destroy you and some creatures are virtually impossible, until you level up and come back stronger. The game has no voice acting, so you are reading everything, and you eventually pick between 2 factions. Now here's where things get interesting, because the developers clearly listened to feedback. About a month after release, they already dropped the first major patch, which significantly transformed how the game feels to play. The biggest addition was a complete fast travel system through a new quest chain, which is huge for a game with no minimap, where you're constantly backtracking. They added an item to reset your talent points if you messed up your build. The interface also got completely overhauled, with better key rebinding that finally let you customize controls properly. A new journal section specifically for tracking all the people you meet, since there are tons of NPCs, and also more map markers you can place yourself. They also threw in more save slots on PC, and even added shortcuts to swap between menu tabs without clicking. These are mostly small things individually, but they do add up when you're playing for hours. But then they also rebalanced the combat pretty significantly. Things like poison damage balance. Their surprise attack, for example, went from adding a flat critical chance to quadrupling it, which is a massive change. They reduced focus costs on some abilities, and also tweaked the enemy poise regeneration. Then, in December, they dropped the Insane patch. Yes, this is literally what it's called, which completely changed the difficulty options. They added this new Insane difficulty mode, and here's the important part. They didn't just make enemies hit harder or have more health. They actually gave enemies completely new attack patterns and behaviors they didn't have before. Stone crushers, for example, now chase you while continuously slamming the ground, so you have to keep proper distance. The magical spiders can channel energy to buff themselves mid-fight. They also added hardcore mode, which is permadeath. Your save converts to regular mode if you die once. But they didn't just focus on difficulty. They also expanded the Bandit camp with a whole new cave area for storage. They put in heavy leather armor specifically because people felt there was a huge gap in armor progression after the basic leather armor in chapter 1. And they also completely reworked how food works. So instead of instant healing, food now heals over time while losing charges. This makes food way more useful in late game. The 3rd patch came out as the final major update, and this one adds substantial late game content. They included this whole new thing called the Flesh Rises, which is about uncovering secrets about the bygones and what happened in the Red Moor. They also added a completely new dungeon with magically enhanced warriors and new challenges. The really cool addition was Old Magic, a new spell category that lets you cast magic without the runestone that you normally get in the later story. This was specifically for people who wanted to play as a mage from the start, instead of being forced into melee combat for the first multiple hours. They also added weapon-based spells for warriors who didn't want to throw fireballs but still wanted magical damage, tied to whatever weapon they're using. They also reworked chapter 3 based on heavy feedback. Now you can question things way more during the expedition itself. NPC reactions change if you want them beforehand, and you can even pre-warn the divinity about what's coming, which affects the actual boss fight. They furthermore threw in new cave tilesets for the Red Moor, so the underground areas have more variety. All 3 patches included tons of smaller fixes and tweaks that may not be exciting to list, but clearly show the developers actually cared about polish. What's impressive is this was all 3 updates over 5 months from a small indie studio. The developers have now moved on to the next project, but Drova got transformed from a solid Gothic-like into something way more complete. If you like old school RPGs that expect you to pay attention and don't explain everything 5 times, and you want a game that actually got meaningful post-launch support, then at this stage the really isn't much to criticize here, aside from there being no voice acting at all perhaps, but Drova is absolutely worth checking out, now that it's in its final form. And this sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.